The next performance domain to consider for tailoring is the planning performance domain. Let's have a look at this domain and what we can say about tailoring. When we look at the tailoring of the planning performance domain, we have to consider following elements. First of all, what is the effect of internal and external environmental factors on the project deliverables? Environmental factors are very important on the project and they will influence the planning. The planning can be, in fact, influenced by the internal rules, the factors that we are dealing with, for example, working hours, different elements that we have within the company, within the organization. But we also have to look at the external factors which may say when you can work on a certain place, what are the rules to follow. All these elements can have an effect on the project and the deliverables, and of course will affect the planning. We also look at the factors that can influence duration. What are the elements that we can consider here? Well, we have the resources. We look at the number of resources, the quality of the resources, their knowledge, their experience, but also we have to consider elements like productivity. And also some external factors may be there because when we are dealing with physical resources, we have also effects here. It may take a certain time before those physical resources have been delivered. When we look at the elements, when we look at the planning, we have to consider what procedures, processes, and guidelines related to cost estimating and budgeting that have to be followed. When we look at these different elements, the companies can have those processes, procedures, and guidelines in place because of certain specific reasons, and we have to follow those in order to provide the perfect planning. How do we look at cost estimating typically in adaptive cycles? When we look at procurements, do we have one single or multiple procurements? Sometimes we call it one-stop shopping. How do we deal with the procurements? When we have to provide procurements from different suppliers, it can make all the processes a little bit more complex. All these elements have to be evaluated during the planning. And of course, we have to consider the local laws and regulations that we have to integrate with the organizational process assets. All these elements are very important because we have to consider them when we are tailoring the planning. Can we simplify the planning, or do we have to add more complexity to ensure that all the elements that we have to include, that we can include them in the processes? So all these elements, they come together and they will lead to the planning. They will be part of the tailoring of the planning performance domain. That's it for the tailoring of the planning performance domain. In the next lesson, we will talk about tailoring the project work performance domain. That's it for this lesson. I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next lesson and videos. Thank you and bye-bye.